afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third webinar. Chances are that in your private conversations, you have argued with your friends about how digital media, such as social media, is killing traditional media. You have wondered whether traditional media, that is the newspaper, radio, and television, still matter in today's society. The truth is that we're dependent on digital media in a way that is unprecedented. Advertisers are turning to social media platforms. Television channels are going live on Facebook, on Instagram TV, and websites as they seek to appeal to the youth. Given that the digital media craze is on another level, it is on steroids, so to speak, is it possible for traditional media to reinvent itself and take advantage of this new digital wave? Joining the conversation is a team of successful media experts. Julie Masiga, who's a High Court advocate and journalist, Ruth Nesoba, a regional deployments editor at BBC Africa, and Agnes Nonsisi, who's an entertainment journalist and TV host. On to our first guest, Julie Masiga. Julie is a High Court advocate and journalist. She is a human rights proponent with an interest in women leadership and governance. She has a vast writing and editing experience and has worked for newspapers, magazines, television stations, and digital news outlets across East Africa. Julie is also a peace and security editor at The Conversation Africa, which is a digital news website. Previously, she's worked at the Standard Group as a talk show host and editor of the Sunday magazine. Also, she's worked as a features writer at the Drum magazine. Julie has a master's degree in creative writing from the University of Edinburgh, a certificate in journalism from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Sheffield in the UK. We have two things in common with Julie. First, we both edited our father's books. Congrats, Julie, for Dad's book, The Old Lion of Africa. The second thing we have in common, okay. The second thing we have in common is that we are both creative writers and poets, for that matter. Karibu sana, Julie.
Asante sana. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon. And specifically about the legacy media, and specifically within that, the print media. I should begin by saying that the golden age of the print media was in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. And that's when the industry was thriving on sales and distribution. And of course, advertisers were more than happy to advertise in newspapers and magazines. As we got into the 2000s and started moving towards 2005, there were whispers that print is dying, that print was terminal, and one day it was just going to fall down and die. And of course, these whispers started in the 1950s, because obviously the printing presses have been around for a very long time, but most of us didn't take them that seriously. People in the West, early movers in the West, realized that at one point in time, audiences were going to be concentrated in the online space, and they started to experiment and move into the space slowly. But here in the global South and in developing countries, we were so convinced that legacy media was working, our model was working, it was thriving. We were like, digital stuff, we'll come to it when we come to it. Then, of course, COVID-19 happened. And there was no more procrastination. The time was now. Some might say that COVID-19 fired a bullet into the industry, but I like to think about it like a silver bullet, because there's so much opportunity in the online space. There's so much that can happen there. There's so many different types of audiences, and it's such an easy place to operate in. But as we can see, post-COVID-19, everything has gone online. Retailers, for example, in America are closing hundreds, up to 500 stores, because they're realizing that their audiences are in the online space. Same thing for print. Take Oprah magazine, for example. One magazine that had just as much ads as it did editorial space. They're going fully online. Who would have thought that would have happened? Who would have thought that would be the one magazine that would survive? Down south in South Africa, News 24, one of the biggest publishers of magazines and other titles, has closed down dozens of magazines just this year, dozens, like 20, 30, 40. They're also trying to establish a very strong online presence. And of course, here in Kenya, we have Parents Magazine, a flagship, you might say, a magazine we're all so familiar with and have grown up with, many of us. They have also established a very strong online presence, even as they maintain their physical copy, but realizing that audiences are to be found more and more in the online space. The other day, Nation Media relaunched their print product, came up with a very new and updated and comprehensive design, at the same time still announcing that they are going to roll out a very strong online strategy. So they have also realized that you cannot ignore the digital space, the time of, meaning that this just cannot be ignored. COVID-19 has showed us that there's a different way of doing business, and audiences are younger and fresher. They're more up to date with technology, and new media could replace legacy media. But at this point in time, I think we can work together in a very symbiotic fashion. At the Standard Media Group, they've had a strong digital presence for years. In fact, they've had one of the #1 sites, SDE. But they're now also moving into what they call convergence, which is where journalists are now expected to be multimedia. You cannot present yourself as a print journalist anymore. You need to upskill. You need to be able to translate your same content for a broadcast audience and for a digital audience. So with convergence, they're realizing that we need to repurpose content and make it available for online audiences. And they're also realizing that the old traditional way of being either a print journalist or a broadcast journalist is not going to work. We all have to be able to fulfill multiple roles. So where does this leave us if we're all moving online? As media houses, we have to make money. That's the reason for being. I know we are the fourth estate, and there are all these romantic ideals about being the voice of the people. But at the end of the day, people need to make money, meaning that they need to monetize that content in the online space. How do they do this? There are a variety of ways. They can sell content outright, as in if you want to read a story, you pay for it. They can go into full subscription mode, where if you want to read The Nation or The Standard, you need to subscribe. They can also have what people are calling memberships. For example, with the Daily Monitor Daily Maverick down in South Africa, they have kind of like a members club of Daily Maverick members, so to speak. It's almost like a club. So you get advanced access to premium content. You also get invited to various events. You probably get a bit of merchandise. So you kind of buy into the idea of the content that you want to consume, and you show your loyalty by becoming a member, and you get added value in addition to information, entertainment, and education, traditional values of the media space. So in the online space, one complication is that you're competing with every other content creator, and we're trying to make money. As we can see, people like Eric Omondi are more trusted by brands right now. On his IG page, you'll see him advertising things that you would normally see either on billboards or on TV. You'd hear about it on radio, or you'd see a print ad. But they trust him and his audience because they can engage with the people who are watching Eric Omondi, and they can monitor the progress or the uptake of their brands. This means that media houses, as they move into that space, have to distinguish their content and offer a unique value add. For example, at The Conversation where I work, we do science communication. But what distinguishes us is the fact that our articles are written by academics who are either basing it on evidence or research or some sort of study. And then what we do is edit it and present it in a journalistic fashion. That distinguishes us immediately from other content creators in this space where everybody with a keyboard or a camera or a podcast can compete. So how do you support these various types of content creators online? For example, The Conversation is fully funded. We're not a commercial outlet. We are funded by various organizations around the world. We partner with universities who also give us some money, and that's how we're able to produce content and allow other media houses to reproduce that content for free. So this is what is happening in the online space. Collaborations. We are fully funded. We produce content that other people can reproduce for free. And as their media houses shrink based on shrinking advertising revenues, and of course the disruption of new media, we're able to have that symbiosis where our content goes onto commercial platforms, and commercial platforms are able to access it without a full outlay of resources which they don't have at this point in time. Another thing that might happen, and I've seen it happen in Norway and in Sweden, is where daily newspapers stop producing the daily newspaper and only put out a newspaper on the weekends. So the whole week they're reporting on, basically just reporting on facts. When it comes to Sunday, they offer you opinion, in-depth analysis, they go behind the headlines, and they give you something which you want to buy because it's just full of value for you. And finally, another method or manner in which traditional legacy media can compete with the new media, in this case without even engaging, is to produce niche publications. For example, in South Africa, they're finding that farmers' titles or architecture types still being asked to spend 300, 400 shillings on particular magazines because those magazines appeal to them. End of the day, it becomes a nuance, it becomes a matter of content, and it becomes a matter of audience engagement. How are you going to attract an audience and keep it loyal to you in the online space, knowing very well you're competing with millions and millions of other content creators? Bottom line, is not a death sentence. Print will not die per se, because printed words on online or in a newspaper are still printed words. But there has to be a very strong symbiosis. I'm sure the legacy media in terms of print is going to shrink, but it can still use its flagship titles to leverage onto the online space and still provide that content. One advantage we have as journalists in the print media is we are trained to collect information, we're trained to verify information, and we're trained on how to present that information. That immediately puts us one step ahead of the competition. So at the end of the day, I see COVID-19 and the long road to death of the print more of an opportunity than death sentence. Thank you. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie, for that initial submission. And I'd like to inform our viewers today, listeners, that you can write your comments and questions in the chat section, and our guests will be answering that. And I think they'll also go to the chat section and also type some of the answers there. You can also tweet us. Our hashtag is SPU Digital Craze. I can see several people have joined us today. My colleagues from St. Paul's University. I can see our dean is here. We have some people from BBC, KBC, KMC alumni, and thank you very much. Even Network for Media and PR Women in Kenya. Now, I'd like to welcome our second guest, and our second guest is Agnes Nonsisi. Nonsizi is an entertainment journalist and TV host. She has over 7 years experience on the African entertainment scene and Kenyan media. She has worked as a TV presenter on Kameme TV. She was one of the hosts, she was the host of the entertainment shows Sherege and Mudugudo Live. She did a stint at the 10 over 10 show on Citizen TV. She won the 2019 Zuri Award in the media category, and she is the lead publicist and co-founder of Terrazzo New Media, which is an entertainment PR agency. Actually, to our students, Nonsizi is someone you may want to know. Most communication students are talented musicians who are just starting out in their musical career, and Nonsizi has hands-on experience on how to create, market, and monetize musical talent. She's worked with the Kenya's top music labels such as Ogopa DJs, Taras Music, and Pine Creek Records. She's also worked with top musical talent such as Remy Martin, King Kaka, Omaumi from Nigeria, Arrow Boy, Atemi, Della, Otile Brown, Guardian Angel, to mention but a few. The stage is yours, Nonsizi. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Ndavula, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Jackie, for reaching out to me and for allowing me to share this wonderful afternoon with you. So at this moment, allow me to present what I have prepared for all of us. Okay, so let's talk about television. I think I'm a little bit young. I think I'm the youngest in the panel. So I've really encountered both sides, both legacy media, which is TV, and also digital, because I'm literally a millennial. And I'd like to start on how my media journey began, because I ended up taking journalism and public relations courtesy of my mom, who believed that I belonged nowhere else but in the media, doing what she believes I do best, which is talking, which is very funny. So, and she always makes fun that I started talking when I was in her womb. Surely mothers know best. So she decided, you know what? Once you're done high school, you're going to do journalism and public relations. And I went to Technical University of Kenya. By then we were called Kenya Polytechnic, and that's how my journey began. When I was in high school, I thought I really wanted to be a lawyer. Whoever told me that I could be in a court, I don't know. So did I really want to be on TV? No, it never crossed my mind that I can be on TV. But radio was my first love, and it's still my love, and I really want to be behind the microphone. There's something that being behind the mics brings into, and I feel like I really am intrigued to be behind the mic. But when I was growing up, I was listening to the sorts of Gathoniwa Moshoba, who is now our women rep, Kiambu County. I don't know anyone who is watching, they know her. I'm sure some of you know her. But she was on radio then, and specifically Kameme. And I grew listening to a lot of vernacular radio when I was growing up. So there's Gathoni, there was Waithira Muithirania, and there was PM Squared. So those are the people that shaped for me to fall in love with radio. And fast forward, I clear college and I got my job at Ogopa DJs. And when I was working there, my dream for radio was still very much alive. And because I had free access to a studio, I could download news from Kameme's website, which is MediaMax, and read. I'm very good at vernacular, which is my stronghold, and I will talk about it and how it came to help me. So I could download news, read, record, because I have free access to studio. And now here comes the digital part. I could upload the news on SoundCloud. I wish I could attach the audio. And if you go to my SoundCloud right now, you'll meet those recordings. And then I could share them on my Facebook account. And I knew anybody out there could see them, and they know the potential that I have, and share it. And share, and maybe I just end up on radio. My main thing was to be on radio. So what am I saying? If you have something that you're working on, if you're good at, work on that skill as you wait. Are you good at TV? And now we have platforms, we have Facebook, you can go on Instagram Live. You have so many platforms, and you have a smartphone. Work on your skill as you wait. Just sharpen yourself. Then use the digital platforms that we have to showcase what you are capable of. You never know, honestly, who is watching. Then identify your area of strength and maximize on it. I always knew, yes, I'm good at vernacular, but I could shy away from it because of a few different things. But I had friends who told me, if you're good at this thing, it could help you. So maximize on vernacular. Then you're good at entertaining, you could do entertainment, because I love entertainment. And that's the direction that I took. Then my TV journey began in 2017. I became the host of a show called Shia Reggae. It was once a week, Saturday. It was 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., but not that fast. Not without challenges. So I remember we did the auditions in 2015. They were tedious, they were long, guys. The queue was if you know where MediaMax is, the queue started at Globe Roundabout. And I remember then I had a small baby, so I had to wake up and feed the baby and then leave the house. By the time I was getting there at 7, I clearly knew the competition is so high. But remember, I had been working on my recordings, I'd been practicing my Kikuyu, and so when I went, I remember that I was given a script to read, and it was like a walk in the park for me. So that is where they say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Be prepared for anything. Then after that, I remember I did my screen test at around 7, thinking that, oh yes, next week they are calling us. We waited for close to 2 years, because we did the auditions in 2015 and they called us towards the end of 2016. We signed the contract, And after another audition and interview, it was concluded that I would do a live reggae show in Kikuyu. Kikuyu was not the problem. The problem was the reggae part. Oh my God. My heart beats for music and anything, but not reggae was not my stronghold. But again, was about to turn down the job that I had waited for? No. So you know what? The way Richard Branson says, someone offers you an opportunity, but you're not sure how you can do it, say yes. Then learn how to do it later. And that's what I did. And Kameme believed in me, and that really shaped my career. So when I got there, getting a job is one thing. I had to keep it. So digital came much into play because reggae music is huge in Kenya, but we don't have a lot of reggae artists. So I could really research a lot. I could get news from Jamaica and translate them in Kikuyu. My research skills were sharpened. My translation, my script writing skills, my interviewing skills, because now then artists from Jamaica were coming to Kenya and I could interview them. And remember, we had a sister station then, which is K24. So sometimes I could get an opportunity to also interview in English. So I was also working on my other side of, like the English part. Then each and every job comes with growth, and also I grew online. The minute you're on TV, your online brand grows as well, because now we're in a digital world, and we could transmit live on Facebook. We could transmit live on Kameme's website. We had an app. So because of that, my digital presence was growing slowly by slowly. Now I had a sizable online audience who are now a part of brand Nonsizi. Then growth happened after a year and a few months of serving. A new TV station came calling, called Mount Kenya TV. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And they were offering me a better deal. And there was a career growth, because then I would happen to be a host and a producer of the show. And like where I was just a host only, then my brand was growing because I was getting 2 hours daily. That's a lot of visibility, and my brand would grow a lot. And of course, there was financial growth. Guys, we all love money, but there was risk, because every move comes the risk. You know, moving to a new media house is like starting a new business. You never know. It could work, it couldn't. But how will you learn if you don't risk? So taking risks, if you win, take risks. If you win, you will be happy. If you lose, you will be wise. And that's what I did. 2018, my journey now for Mudungudo Live began. I was hosting it alongside a very talented DJ called DJ Makdi. This role came with serious responsibilities because it was a daily show. I'm the producer. I'm in charge of the creative. I'm in charge of the budget. I'm in charge of everything. And but I loved the adrenaline, the energy, and the interaction, and the growth that came with it. And I felt like for once my purpose is here. I'm serving what I am meant to do, to entertain and to make people happy. And now the effects were crazy, online and offline. My numbers grew. My interaction was high. Then we were transmitting on YouTube, on Instagram Live, on Facebook Live, all platforms, in that if you could not be able to join, then you were able to watch from wherever you are. And it was amazing, and we got to go outside and do so much. And but remember the risk bit of things. You remember the risk bit of it. Was it too good to be true? Well, let's say it was short and sweet. So after 6 months, due to circumstances that were totally beyond our control, the show had to stop. Then now I'm not on TV, so what next? I already have an audience that is asking me every day online, where did you go? I have a talent. I know what I am capable of doing. So I resorted to, but before that, I really hit rock bottom, because I was asking myself, did I really have to move? But after support system coming to my senses, and like it was an opportunity for growth, and you served the purpose, and now people know what you're capable of. So I resorted to online content creation. I have a YouTube channel called Simply Nonsizi that I broadcast in Kikuyu. And also there was TikTok. Now TikTok came, and TikTok is very exciting, and people are doing videos there. Probably you have seen one of my TikTok videos cross your way somewhere. Even I saw Sonko shared it the other day. So I because I love creating content, I went to content creation. I have been doing TV show contributor because of my mastery of the scenes of the entertainment scenes. I am requested to be on shows like 10 over 10 to discuss entertainment matters and music matters, and that is what I've been doing. And also I had always wanted to start my acting career, and I can say how I was discovered is when I auditioned, they also had to see what I've been doing online and how I've been doing my brand. So I'm so proud to say that I got an acting role a few weeks ago on Kina, and which airs on Maisha Magic East, Maisha Magic Plus, and I'll be on few episodes. What is the take home? If there's someone here watching and thinking, is there an opportunity on TV or on legacy media if you want to join? Yes, there's an opportunity for you. But one, you need to identify your area of strength. What are you good at? Is it politics? Is it music? Is it health? Is it agriculture? Just identify and become a master of one thing, and master it so well that when you present yourself, you will be the best in the house and no one will turn you down. Know everything inside out. Be a master of that thing. It doesn't matter how awkward it is to other people. If you've mastered it, run with it. Then use what you have, which is the digital space. And unlike legacy media, it has no boundaries. Be creative as possible. You will never know who is watching. Traditional and digital media do not compete at all. If anything, they will complement each other. Because when you're on traditional media, you get people, you get a platform and your brand grows online. But if you're not on traditional media, you could end up on traditional media by someone noticing you on digital platform. Grow and engage your audience. Have a voice in something, in that when that opportunity provides itself, you will not be ready. You will bring something to the table. And that's it. We can connect on all those platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I am available, and that is my short journey.
Thank you very much, Nonsizi, for that awesome presentation, and for just showing the young people that this media are theirs for the taking. Remember to keep your questions and comments coming in the chat section, and we'll look at that shortly. Also, keep tweeting hashtag SPU Digital Craze as one word. I'd like to recognize a few people who've joined us. Dr. Peace Agufana, the Registrar of Muranga University, Karibu. We have Agnes Ngugi, and Agnes has been very consistent attending all our webinars. She's an alumni of St. Paul's, but she's attending all the way from Germany. Then we also have Jackie Manyaga. You all remember her from our first webinar. Jackie is also joining us from the USA. Welcome. Now let's go on to our third guest, and that is Ruth Nesoba. Ruth is a regional deployment editor at the BBC World Service. She has an extensive portfolio in broadcast journalism, especially in news, reporting, programs, presentation, and production. She has experience in planning, deployments, commissioning, media training, mentorship, and coaching. Ruth began her career as a featured writer for local dailies. She then joined the state broadcaster KBC, where she honed her skills in radio production, reporting, and presenting. She left KBC as a senior radio producer and joined the BBC World Service. She has worked for the BBC both at the London headquarters and also the East African region. Notably, she was the producer of the BBC Africa debate, and she traversed the continent, bringing together top brains on the debate table. Ruth is a council member of the Kenya's Editors Guild, a member of the Global Women in News, and the Association of Media Women in Kenya, AMWIC. She is an alumnus of the Early Media Fellowship. Ruth graduated with a bachelor's degree in journalism and media studies from the University of Nairobi, and she holds a diploma in mass communication from the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. You have a very impressive portfolio, Ruth. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ndavula. I'm really humbled, and it's such a pleasure to give me this opportunity to lend my voice to this great discussion as we look at the disruptions in the traditional media industry, the positives that these disruptions present, and the challenges thereof. Looking at the topic, redesigning traditional media in a digital world for success. And I'm really honored to be amongst you, as one of my call in recent days has been to help nurture and grow the next generation of talent in this industry. I made a short presentation, not so much. I've left a lot of my background and everything. I would like to share with you just a brief intro into how I got into journalism. I mean, I always wanted to be a journalist. Many of us say that, but for me, I was very passionate about radio, growing up listening to my dad's shortwave radio, hearing what is going on around the world. And when the opportunity presented itself, I took it up with both hands. I'm passionate about radio because radio is what gave me my first paycheck. And I'm still in it, but most of my professional life as a broadcast journalist has been in radio at KBC Channel 1, and now at the BBC Africa as a news and features reporter, as you've just mentioned, and been doubling up that with the news reading, program presentation, working as a radio continuity announcer, a commentator during live events, and rising steadily to a programs producer and a field producer. Currently, I'm working as an editor, and if I can just show a bit of my life out there in the field, on live occasions, going out where people have been displaced, interviewing those who are in charge of the processes and also the communities that have been affected. I love telling people's story, what affects you and I, because that is what people can relate to. This is what resonates with the audience that you're talking to, and this is what will give you the clicks and the bites. Having listened to Nonsizi and also to Julie, who spoke just before I did, I would say that radio still remains the king. It is still the most powerful, most popular medium that we have, that is used to celebrate humanity, that those voices that we go out to look for are given a platform for them to speak. And these are not really my words. These are the remarks of the Chadian Minister of Communication, Umar Yahya Hussein, who made the same remarks on the occasion of marking World Radio Day 2020. Radio continues to be a very powerful and underestimated media that has been there from spanning decades, and in some instances it even supersedes its counterparts. Talk of TV, talk of the print, talk of what you have at the moment, because it's anywhere, it's everywhere, it's very mobile, it's very personal, it's local, it can be global. But as it continues to be set out against this other media, it is evolving in this digital age, and it remains a medium that can reach the widest audience worldwide because it's multi-purpose, it's multi-platform, and can help people engage in discussions on topics that affect them, not just locally but globally, as I'm going to show you. I mean, this is how it has grown over the years from those many decades back to what we have now. You can listen to your radio on your mobile phone. You can go online on digital and be able to listen to whatever you want to listen to. For instance, this morning as I was waking up, I listened to radio in Nigeria, I listened to radio in Spain, and I listened to a radio in Western Kenya. So it's no longer radio on one platform as such. It is now becoming more of a style of audio programming. We are seeing it both in the habits around how the audience that we are serving is able to access media, and also in the content of their choices and how they're consuming this platform. For radio, this disruption has had very positive elements as well as presented challenges to us. As we were listening to the speaker before me, Agnes Nonsisi, how she talked about what we are bringing on board. You can use audio clips that you have collected out there in the field, embed them on text, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and you can share them on WhatsApp, the short clips that you have had, which are bites that will trend and will be talked about for days and months and years to come. Radio can be still on air or on digital radio. As you wake up in Africa and be able to listen to a radio in Asia, this is what technology has enabled us to be able to enjoy. And there is a lot of potential. There's those who say, oh, I barely listen to live radio. The answer to this group of people would be, but there are podcasts. If you have strong Wi-Fi or if you have affordable data, then you can be able to do as I did at some point. And I told myself, I'm never going to miss any of my favorite shows that I love. All I do is just make sure that all the podcasts that I like to listen to, that I follow, are set to download via Wi-Fi at night. And I can wake up in the morning and tune into them. Now there are apps that are available on Play stores, for instance, Spotify, which has added podcasts onto their offer. And this has now emerged as a very strong number 2 contender in the US for people who want to listen to podcasts. And for us who are professionals in this industry, you as a journalist out there wondering, what will I do with the content that I'm making? I don't have enough money to put up a radio station. I'm not so sure that people will be able to listen to what I'm putting out there. Please try to consider putting it out on a podcast. And as a journalist, if you embrace this platform, I'm sure the world will just be like not even enough for you. It will go beyond, it will transcend. And you can also use a podcast for inspiring works that have been done by your peers and colleagues in the profession. Listen to what they have done, get inspired, get story ideas from the works of your colleagues out there. It doesn't have to be locally here in Kenya. It's beyond, globally, all over. You want to listen to an environmental journalist and how they told this story and to get ideas for your next show or next content, go out there and listen to what the rest have done. The new technology should not be a challenge to us as players in the industry. It will mean that we have new formats to play with. We have new ways of telling our stories. In the UK, for instance, there's a station that has come up with content for construction workers only, and it is meant for them. It's targeting them. In Australia, there's a commercial station that has come up with programs for children up to 7 years only. So we are going to continue seeing such trends coming up with very new, interesting formats made in ways that are very possible for the listener out there to listen to them. On smartphone, if you went through and looked at all the apps, I'm sure many of you know about TuneIn Radio app. Many of you may be knowing about the Garden Radio app that I've just shown earlier, where you can listen to radio from anywhere in the world that you wanted to listen to. And this has made it quite easy and enjoyable for you. If you feel like you don't want to listen to this station, then you can switch off and go to the other one. And if you don't want to listen to someone talking on and on, you can just listen to the music alone. So using your mobile phone or your tablet apps is a good way as a journalist also to get your content pushed around and to be heard and to be used by the shows or the stations that are out there. So talk about talk shows or talk radio. I'm sure as we woke up today, if I did a quick survey, out of the many of us on this forum, perhaps only 1 or 2 tuned in to talk show programs this morning. Why? It's because perhaps the subjects or the topics that are being discussed are not to your liking. Someone is making that choice for you. But increasingly, people now have something else to go to. They have other options. They have other media sources. They will quickly tune off and go into music radio to look for a program or an app that will play music of their liking uninterrupted with lesser adverts and lesser interactivity than what is being offered. So the challenge is to us as content producers. How are we going to be able to get into the fold to make sure that we are still relevant? We're going to see more of this in the coming days. And there are examples out there, quite a lot of them for us to copy from or for us to follow. For instance, in Austria, there's a radio called Kronhit Online. It's listened to across the world. It's doing quite well. And one way they have realized of staying with a live radio service is to make it available to as many users as possible, but also give them the option to skip songs and segments that they don't like and go ahead to the next content that is coming up, for them to just make that decision. Will I keep listening in, or will I move on to the next program, or will I move on to the next shows? So for me, of the belief that as journalists, we need to get as much training as possible for us to remain relevant in this industry. So more training is what I'll keep insisting on. And the opportunities are out there. If you network, if you reach out, speak to your peers, speak to some of us who have been on this platform speaking to you, we will show you and we'll hold your hands and show you where you can get more opportunities to get you trained to fit into this digital era. For media houses, please invest as much as you can. A production team that is dedicated to creating the very best TV and radio features, documentaries, commercials and infomercials and programs at very competitive costs. Also invest in fully equipped production and recording studios with the latest state-of-the-art technology in the industry, and have creative writers and producers who will create the best production that matches the audience's particular needs. People who are in touch with the reality, with what is happening out there, go for that. The future, I still believe, is in this traditional medium. It's still in radio, it's still in TV. There was that time when they said that TV was going to be the death of radio, but that has proved to be far from accurate. Radio still remains very relevant. This era has given us an opportunity to take the risks, as Nonsizi has just said, take the risk, go out there with the content that you have, understand your audience, understand what they want, understand what comes with this technology, and embrace it. Let's be more innovative, let's be more creative, and go out there to look for ways to be relevant. So in summarizing, I would like to say, like all media, radio is facing major changes. Technology has come, it will stay here with us. It's inevitably going to influence the way our audience consumes what we have, the way they're going to access our media, the way they're going to choose what to listen to and not to listen to. There's a lot of choice out there. The audience can choose not to listen to you. They will move on. They will go, not just here in Kenya, they will look for radio stations or content, audio material to listen to all over the world. And this has made us to be realistic to the fact that the time we spend putting together content must be the same time that we are spending to ensure that we draw as many audience as we can to listen to our programs. Big international players like the BBC that I work for have been very creative and come up with very innovative ways of telling stories. And stories nowadays are those that will resonate with people, not just here, but across the world. What affects me as a woman here in Kenya is what also affects another woman in a place like Nigeria. So how do we create material that will move? It's to make sure that the quality that we put out there is of very high standards, very high quality. And because of that, the audience and the listeners now are demanding content that is seamless, that is very creative, that is very personal, stories that people can relate to. So all these are very welcome developments that are enabling our listeners to create their own personal media schedules and to have content that is tailored to what they like. And the challenge then means that as serious players in the industry, we have to invest very heavily in technology, in service delivery, and improving ourselves as journalists, the individual. Don't just say that my experience, my learning has ended or has stopped here. Keep aspiring to get better every day. I would like to share my details. I'm found on Twitter at Ruth Nesoba, and you can also email me at ruthnesoba@gmail.com. Thanks for the opportunity. I think the discussion continues, and I'm happy to engage. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ruth. That was an amazing presentation. I'd like to recognize a few other guests who've joined us. We have Paparazzi, who's the social media manager for Y254 TV from KBC, Karibu. I'd also like to recognize our social media team, the students, Michael, Wanjohi, Peter, and the others. Thank you very much for tweeting all along. Now, you can see there's so many questions coming in and also some being answered on the chat. Thank you, Jackie, Manyaga, for taking your time to answer some of those questions. Now, we have one question for Nonsizi. There's a student who's asking, how can I create content that is worth to be listened to. I don't know what you could say about that.
One, I would like the person to identify the audience. Who are the people that you want to share the content with? Who are you targeting with this content that you want to share out there? Is it the children? Is it teenagers? Is it the mature? Is it the old? Then once you're able to identify that, look at what content is being shared already. What are your so-called competitor doing? Or the market, the industry that you're joining, if there's such nature of that nature content being shared, what are they doing? And how can you do it differently? Then remember, it's all about quality and not quantity. Look at sharing information that is interesting, is valuable, is informative, that will change somebody's life. Not just a matter of putting out content because of putting out, but because of you want to change a life or inform, or if it's entertaining or in one way or another, let it be different and let it touch somebody's life or the audience that you're targeting. Then another thing, know where your audience is heavily and when to post it, because if you want to share it, whether it's on digital, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, learn their logarithms. When do you post? What do you post? How consistent do you do it? And if it's on radio and TV, know the peak time. If you want a show that is, of course, adult, whatever, it has to be after 10 p.m. If you want a sponsor who is an alcohol sponsor to sponsor the show, of course, it has to be after certain hours. So understand where you want to share the content and how do you go about it. And then after that, do have a plan of how to roll. Don't fear to experiment. Don't fear to try. This will work. If it doesn't, then you can continue, and then all the best. I hope I've answered your question.
Sorry, we have another question here from Wanjiku Kinyanjui. So she's asking, so to redesign, I think this will be for Julie. So to redesign traditional media, should we go digital and find ourselves?
Thank you. We've established that the old way of doing things cannot go on in the same way that we're doing things right now. People are not buying physical newspapers. People are not reading news in newspapers because news goes out on Twitter and Facebook and other channels way before the paper even goes to press. So to embrace the new media, we have to change the way we think about things, perhaps for more in-depth stories, add value to the news package, and redefine the way we present information, and understand that the audience in the digital space is different from somebody who's going to buy a newspaper and read it from cover to cover. So we have to, it's basically a time of reinvention and reimagination, because we have the content, we have the means to collect content, but how do we present it? Who do we present? I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very well answered. And now to Ruth. We have two questions which I think you can take at once. The first question is from Vicky, who's asking, what are some of the challenges of working on BBC, such a huge media space and an established brand? And we have an almost similar question which is saying, how have you managed to keep BBC as a brand going for all these years? What's the trick? What's the magic of success? Yeah, so Ruth, you can unmute yourself and respond to that.
Okay, yeah, thanks for this opportunity and the questions. BBC is such a huge organization, as Victor says, but it's for you to discover your niche, to discover the languages and specialize. What are you good at? What are you very comfortable at telling? My entry into the BBC was actually the Swahili language. I realized when I joined media that English broadcasters or people who are reporting in English were like, it was flooded. Everyone was doing, the news at 9 p.m. and very few were reporting in Swahili. And somebody told me if the BBC ever wanted to recruit a journalist from Africa, I doubt they would go for someone who speaks English because they already have the best English speakers. So why don't you try mastering and improving your Swahili and give Swahili reporting an opportunity? And so I went into that, working hard, making sure that if there were any opportunities to go out into the field to report live in Swahili, I took those up. And when the BBC came calling, when they were like relocating most of their broadcasts in African languages to Africa, they chose Nairobi as their hub for Swahili, and they needed more people to serve on their team. And that's how my opportunity came. So it's to realize what potential you have, work on it to be the best in it, and make sure that you're above the rest in whatever you're doing. Keep being the best in what you do, and also look out for opportunities. They're out there. When big opportunities come, I'm sure the networks that you keep would mention that to you. I got into the BBC through a network that I had known in the past, and I had mentioned to them that if ever there was an opportunity for someone to be recruited in Africa for the BBC, please do consider me. And as fate had it, that same person was on the panel that came to recruit journalists for the BBC. Not that I got it on a silver platter, but I must have done the best board ever, and that's why I'm where I am today. So just try as much as you can to be the best you are in whatever you're doing. I think that also answers the question that has come from the other lady who was asking, what is it that you have done to be at the BBC for this long? It's to ensure that you change with the times. When I joined the BBC, I was just a radio journalist. I was very good in radio production, radio presentation, and many other skills. But as the media industry was changing, we were demanded to no longer just say I am a radio journalist, but then I had to also be a TV reporter. You had to be able to file material and content that would be used online, on mobile, and for digital platforms. How do you do that? How do you achieve that to make sure that you're changing with the times as they do change? I hope I've answered you. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Maybe just one final question. I mean, most of the listeners today, the students, are agreeing that our voices are really nice. So they ask, is it just the voice that can take you into broadcasting, or you must be trained for it? Maybe very briefly, Ruth.
It takes both. It's the voice. I also think in the long run, you will have to have at least some level of training with you to enable you to succeed in this profession. I think, Agnes, you can agree with me. I mean, this industry is very rough. It's very tough. And if you just went there relying on your voice, new talent will come. There are new people joining the industry every other day. So what will separate you, or what will be the difference between you and another one who even has a more sweeter voice than yourself? So if you have the papers, if you've gone through some sort of training, even if it's just basic entry-level training, then you'll be at an upper advantaged position than that one who just has the voice.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm so grateful to our panelists today for agreeing to join us and sharing their insights with us and our students. You've been extremely generous with your time. I know you're busy people, and your insights and your personal stories have really inspired our students. Asanteni sana. I can assure you that our students, journalists, and other communication professionals have really benefited from this conversation. I wish you every blessing, and please continue to inspire future generations of communication professionals. Asanteni sana.